Those are good. Breon, give me your rendition of an alpha. Did we make the comparison? I felt like you did alpha and beta. Did everybody touch on? Okay, gotcha. What's your understanding on alpha males, Breon?
So I feel like when it comes to an alpha male, like just like how Todd was saying, like somebody who's going to already like naturally just be ready to go, ready to do what he has to do for his family, provide, work, pay the bills, take care of everything like that. I also believe, well, just for me, I feel like also with that, you might not get some of the stuff that you write. Like maybe you're not going to get them as sensitive, or maybe you're not going to be too geared towards your feelings. Like, yeah, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to make sure you're straight. I'm going to make sure the bill's paid. But I might not always want to sit here and talk to you about some things. I might not want to sit here and cater to like the softer side of things and stuff like that. And then I feel like on the other side, with a beta male, you might get those, oh, okay, I can talk to him about my feelings. I can sit here and I can be sensitive with certain things for him. Or I can, like you say, you will also run into those challenges with maybe I gotta, teach in a sense, like teach him a couple of things, or hey, let him know, like, hey, maybe you should do this more, maybe do that more. And the reason I say this from experience, because for me, I feel like that's the challenge that I have, because not to get too much to me, but just I feel like with me, with my dad not being around and not actually like having that man that really sit here and be like, hey, this is what you have to do as a man. Like for me, a lot of things just me growing and just experience looking at other people and seeing how they maneuver and just, take little things from where I can take it rather than just saying, hey, yeah, I had a strong man ahead of me to be like, hey, make sure you got this, make sure you hold it down, make sure you take care of bills, make sure, you know what I mean? So it's like, it just depends on how that person grew up and the experience you had around you to either you're going to be an alpha male or you're going to be a beta.
Is there any in between?
I believe it can be in between because sometimes, you can have certain qualities.
No.
I don't. Yeah.
No, they can't be in between. I don't. That. So when it comes to alpha males and beta males, right? Like I was saying before, there is, definitely a difference, and a woman knows when she's with a alpha versus. Sometimes you don't know when you're with a beta. Sometimes you think you're with the alpha male, but you may be with a beta. And there's different levels, saying, to alpha males, and there's different levels to beta males. You have high functioning alpha males and you have low functioning alpha males. You have high functioning beta males and you have low functioning beta males. So you have different levels, meaning you could be a beta male, but be like very much on top of certain things. You can go to the gym every day. You can pay bills. You can work. You can do this. And then you have low functioning, in both categories, right? Even though alphas are natural born leaders, alpha males know sometimes when to fall back a little bit and allow somebody else to lead, because it's more like, okay, cool, like a part of this herd. I really noticed that when I was watching this. I don't know if you ladies follow the verses. Did you guys ever watch the verses on Instagram? Y'all watched it? Who watched it? The verses. No, you never watched the verses?
The music?
Yeah, the music. Yeah. During the pandemic, they was doing verses and stuff. I was watching verses.
I never watched it.
Okay. Well, there was the verses. It was Jadakiss versus Dipset. Did y'all ever watch that?
That was a classic.
Very, very, very much of a classic. I'm not going to play to avoid copyright strikes or whatever, but it was definitely, I'm going to show it, but I'm just going to comment on it. But everybody said that Jadakiss, basically killed it. Everybody did a, good performance, but they said that the Lox beat Dipset because they've always been together. Jadakiss, Sheik, and I'm just giving you this, as a primary example. It's Styles P, right? Whereas Cameron is clashing with Jim Jones, and you see that's actually more prevalent now with all the stuff that's going on. And then you see basically what's going on, Wells and Dipset and Freaky Z, all of them right there. It was just a lot of them. They had a movement at one point in time. And Cameron was in charge, but now it's, an issue. The Lox basically came in because they were like, we're going to put Jadakiss at the forefront. And Jadakiss basically was the one, even though they had their own little segments and they was rapping and stuff like that, Jadakiss stepped in. And they knew how to fall back and allow Jadakiss to be in that role. That right there was big for me. That's how alpha males run. Me, if I'm in a leadership position, but I'm learning something, I will fall back and I will allow somebody else that has more of a higher power or grade to teach me versus, sometimes you have beta males that just headstruck and they just want to, steal the microphone and, trying to get in there. You kind of saw that. If you go back and you watch that, it was a classic. But when you look at it, we can tell who's an alpha male, who's a beta male. I'm not saying Sheik or Styles was on, beta males, but I'm saying they had to take the role. When we talk about the principle of gender, if you ever I read this book many, many years ago. It was the Kabbalion. And what it talked about was the principle of gender, right? Principle of gender, you have the male, you have the female, you have masculine, you have your female energy. And sometimes you have to assume and go into the role of both. And female and male, there's really no distinction between the two, right? When you look at it from the bigger, grand scheme of things. That's it right there. That's what I was looking for. So when we talk about these type of folks and people, we have to know that when a female goes into a relationship, you are signing up with this person essentially for the rest of your life. So you have to make a clear distinction if this person can lead me, can this person lead me? But sometimes women will take the wheel if you feel like there's a void, because many times there's a lot of voids that go on inside of relationships. And inside of that void for women, the hole becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you fill it up with masculinity. And that's where alpha male or alpha females basically tend to come in. So that's where I wanted to, say, with Dondra, when you are an alpha female, you know how to play the role and use your feminine principle, because when you use your feminine principle, that coincides and that goes together with an alpha male. It goes together. When you talk about a power couple, it's not like you are submitting and you are, groveling at a person's feet or whatever. No, you just know how to be the role and know how to work together instead of being the opposition. So I feel like when it comes to relationships, many times we're not taught those things, and we come from dysfunction. Like, I grew up without a father, so I didn't have an idea of how that actually worked. I had to learn that later on, years down the line, after reading and being knowledgeable and learning and educating myself. But, and just, following things day by day. But at the same time, it's all about making sure that we know who we are, dealing with. So alpha males, beta males, everybody's got their own opinion. But, for me, that's the way I look at things.